What's up, everyone? So today we are at this client property here in Phoenix. Pretty typical client property, just a straight gravel front yard, and the client wants to replace it with lawn. And we don't want to add more lawn to the United States lawn infection. We want to get rid of lawns, but what we can do is we can plant lawn alternatives. And we can talk more about that, but today I actually want to show you specifically what we're going to pitch to this client. So as you can see, there's already a gutter running along this front fascia as well as all along the side. So pretty much all of the water on this roof is being collected. Some of it comes down this downspout right here. Now this is a pretty typical gutter job. You know, you hire some people to do your gutters and they're just going to do this. And they're not really thinking about where the water goes after it comes off your roof, which is a missed opportunity because all of that water pooling right here, right at the base of your house, is not a great idea for your foundation. It can create flooding problems, get super muddy and all that. So what we want to do instead is we want to do one of two things. We'll take this little kick out off and we will either run a large rock arroyo out to this big date palm, Canary Island palm, I don't know exactly what it is, and the sago planted underneath it, and the two moringas right in front of it. We can do a rock arroyo, which I'll show you what that looks like. All right, so here is a riprap arroyo collecting water from that gutter on that edge of the house, and we are moving the water slowly through the property so that it can infiltrate the soil and ultimately end up in this infiltration basin where all the trees and plants can happily sink their roots in. Or we can actually dig out, we can actually install 3-inch PVC pipe all the way to here, which is the less expensive option, and bring the water out here and then bring it up a pop-up drain into this area where all of these plants and anything else that we want to plant can actually benefit from all of the water coming off of this roof, which is thousands and thousands of gallons per year. Now it's the same thing over here on this side of the house. This downspout currently just pumps all of that water right into this area, and while it is graded towards the street, it's not necessarily designed to intentionally bring the water where we want it. Well, this client, we planted 5 moringa trees plus some babies just to kind of test growth differences. We planted 5 moringas along this easement right here. And what I did when I planted it is I actually dug a channel out just along this driveway and filled it back in with mulch just to help guide the water, you know, so that these guys down here at the end, this beautiful fire stick and this other moringa, can get some as well. And so there is a small infiltration basin dug here as well. But again, it's all filled with mulch, and the problem with filling channels and arroyos and basins with mulch is that the water doesn't pass through quite as effectively as when you use rock or pipe. And so we have a couple options here as well. What we could do instead is we could create a specific channel with the big rock, the riprap, run it all along here, and then have little kickouts to each moringa. Another option, if we wanted to go with a cool design, you know, make it look funky, is we could kind of wrap it around, and, you know, in a big rain event, you'll get all this rain and it'll just be kind of winding its way down and ending up right here, and then whatever overflows from there could go into the street. Finally, the third option could be, if we didn't want to see that, if we didn't like the look visually or didn't want to pay for the riprap, then what we could do instead is run a PVC, again, a 3-inch PVC all the way down, except we run what's called a perforated PVC. It's got holes all around it. And what that does is that allows the water to kind of leak out and absorb through the ground, or, you know, through the area that it's placed in. And that's another option as well. Ultimately, the goal for any project like this should be to keep as much of that rainwater coming off that roof in your soil as possible, as much water as possible going into your soil, so that we don't have to hand water these things, because in the rain event, all of that water is getting stored in the earth, which is the most efficient and useful place to store rainwater, even more than a tank. So again, you know, this downspout is already going to be kicking water, and in a big rain event, it's going to do okay. You know, I'm curious to see how my little trench with the mulch will do. But over here on this side, as we've transplanted the sago palm, which is losing its old leaves, making way for the new, and as we've planted these 2 moringa and are planning on doing more, it would be really, really important and useful and awesome to take all of the water coming down from that downspout and run it to this area over here, harvest it this way. We could also just do a big infiltration basin, you know, anywhere on the property that we wanted, but since we've already got this beautiful space with beautiful things growing, we really do want to get that water over this way. So big riprap or underwater pipes, either way works. The goal is just to get the water over here so that we don't have to hand water in subsequent summers. And the same is true over here in the back. Now, again, the entire perimeter of this house is guttered, which is awesome because that means a lot of water is getting captured. But as you can see here, this downspout currently just kicks out right to the pavers. And somebody installed this, you know, above ground thing that can be hooked up just to try to kick the water out this way. But that's really not going to do a great job of getting the water over here. What we would want to do in this case is actually remove the pavers so that we can run a conveyance pipe, a 3-inch PVC pipe underneath, and then we could do a pop-out drain right here and then do an arroyo basin all along this. And then these beautiful little palm things can receive the rainwater from there, and also it can continue running past and feed these beautiful things, you know, and we can create an infiltration basin somewhere in here that will allow these bushes to continue to thrive. Same thing on the other side. Now in this case, you know, we've already got a downspout that's collecting basically, let's see, yeah, any water that's flowing off of this end of the property, this corner, it's coming out of this downspout. And in this case, it's just going into the grass. It's feeding this plant right here. It's feeding this beautiful permaculture lawn with the white Dutch clover and the dichondra that we've added to it to increase biodiversity and soil health. So it's not a huge deal, but as you can see, it's eroding the ground in the spot where the water reaches the earth, because when water moves fast, it erodes the soil. It takes soil with it. And so what we would want to do here at the base is just add in some rock, some of the large riprap rock, just to absorb the momentum of that water gushing out of this downspout and prevent future erosion of the soil. That would be pretty much all we would need to do here. If we wanted to, we could look at running some sort of pipe either under the lawn or out that way to water these Queen's Wreath and tangerine vines, which are really loving life here. They're set up on drip irrigation already. We could look at doing something like that. Also getting the water over to these bushes and to this olive tree. I don't know if this is a fruiting olive. We're gonna find out this fall, but that's really what we want to do with all this water, is just try to get it to the things that want to be watered deeply. So those are our options here. Minimum effort, just throw some riprap down so that it prevents the continued erosion of this part of the earth, keeps things level. And if we wanted to put a little bit more budget into it and really make the most use of this water, we could look at running a pipe, you know, feeding these vines along the wall, all of that beautiful rainwater, and then also channeling it down this way and finishing it up in an infiltration basin down here at the base of this olive tree to help it get bigger and more beautiful. Now, in terms of what to do for the rest of the space, when a client wants to swap gravel for something, we're always excited about that. Again, we really try to avoid the typical lawn because there's already so much, not only in Phoenix, but all across the United States, that is going unused. And you can look up resources like Edible Estates, which is a book printed on projects to replace unused lawns with, edible gardens. And that's one of the things that we're doing with permascaping, right, is we're bringing permaculture into the landscaping. And so we have a lot of opportunities to do that are not the astroturf where weeds are going to poke up anyway. Because, guys, I'll tell you something about weeds. Nature is humble. Nature wants to cover herself. She does not want soil to be naked and exposed. So nature grows weeds to try to cover herself up. And she grows the type of weeds that are necessary to balance the pH of the soil. And so whether you've got rocks or astroturf or anything else, even if you've got the weed fabric down underneath, eventually those weeds are going to find their way through. So instead, the natural way, nature's way of countering this, and how we can counter this and stop fighting nature in these processes, is simply to plant stuff that should go on this land anyway, and that's going to benefit the soil by adding more organic matter into the soil, bringing energy down from the sun through photosynthesis and sharing it with the soil bacteria, which in exchange give the plant roots the nutrients that they need to thrive. And so let's picture that we have a little rock arroyo bringing water down here into a basin, a general area with these plants here. Well, now that we have this nice, beautiful arroyo coming in, what can we plant to either side of it? We can plant native species. We could do a large, desert tree like this mesquite right here, or a palo verde. We can do ground covers like myoporum, creeping herb varieties like creeping thyme, creeping rosemary. We have so many options. If the client really, really wants a lawn, something green and expansive that, kids can play on, or they can do their yoga on, or whatever, then we can look at drought tolerant, low water use and full sun taking lawn alternatives such as Carapia, which is a sort of engineered, trademarked variety of frog fruit. This is something we'll be doing at another client property here in Midtown Phoenix pretty soon. So we can look at covering this whole space with lawn alternatives like Carapia, like Myoporum, sunshine mimosa. There's lots of options that can make this a beautiful green paradise, that's not just a sea of rock, without installing yet another lawn that's not getting used and that's just taking up space, because it's Phoenix, and that's, lawns take a ton of water here in Phoenix just to maintain them. So those are some of the options that we have for a space like this. All right, guys, that's the video for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you have questions, drop them in the comments. If you want to learn more about permaculture in a landscaping setting, if you want to learn how to harvest the rainwater off your roof and bring it to your budding food forest, whatever you want to do, reach out to us. You get a free consultation if you go to our website, permascaping.com. We'll do a virtual consult where we'll pull up your house on Google Earth and screen share and do some initial designing to show you what's possible in your space. Thank you again. Have a beautiful day.